Hey everyone, Ben here and welcome back to the channel. We're in the Ferrari Fixed Challenge this week in iRacing at Interlagos, and I am just a little bit out of my depth. We're in the top split here, so unsurprisingly we've qualified towards the back of the grid. We're just about to get underway though as the rolling start ends and we're barreling down into T1, and my main objective here as we get underway is just to stay safe. It might not be too long a race at just 15 minutes, but the last thing you want to be doing is binning it in T1, lap 1, and then spending time back in the pits. And if we've got any chance of making progress in this race, it's going to be primarily from benefiting from others' mistakes. And just at the end of lap 1, we're following the leading pack now then. Everybody got through the first lap cleanly, but that wasn't going to be the case into lap 2. As you can see here, the cars concertinaing together into T1. Little bit of contact is enough to put that Ferrari round, and then look in the background, we've got more cars going off onto the runoff area, others getting nudged around into spins, and there we go, just passing the rejoining car there on our right hand side and making up another position then up into 14th. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to keep a couple of the faster drivers behind us for very long. They had too much pace. It wasn't worth our while to frustrate them. And so once we were onto the back straight once again, you can see we're getting past relatively easily. They were just getting a much better run off Young Cow and onto the main straight than we were able to, and so we were sitting ducks really, and again into T1, not going to defend that too hard as I knew I didn't have the pace to maintain position against those drivers that had made mistakes at the beginning of lap 2. The middle of the race then, and we are involved in a great scrap with a few other cars. Yes, they're recovering for position, but they're not that much faster than us, so I am able to battle for position here. And as we're coming into the final third of the lap, the black Ferrari behind us makes a move. An opportunistic, unwise lunge from the car behind him then sends both of them into a spin, and so we survive to fight another day. Retirements in the race put us back up into 13th position, and here we are looking to defend it once again from a recovering quick driver, and we're coming through to the end of another lap here into Young Cow once more, and I was still struggling into this corner, and we're just too enthusiastic on the throttle. We get up onto the grass on the outside, we have a bit of a half spin. I'm able to keep it under control on the grass, but we lose all kinds of positions and we drop all the way back towards the very rear of the field, and unfortunately I wasn't able to make up any further positions. So in the end we come home classified in 15th. There were more casualties of accidents in that race. Not a great finish, not a disaster either. We're going to go again though, into race 2. Once more we're in the top split. This time the strength of field is 2.3k. In race 1 it was around 2.8k, so we might have a slightly better chance of competing here. But we messed up our qualifying. We're down in 18th position. We invalidated both of our laps. So we're going to be starting right from the very back of the field. I know at least one driver up ahead is starting from pit lane, so we'll make up a position straight away. But once again, our focus on the opening part of this race is just going to be to stay safe. If you find yourself enjoying this video at any point, please do leave a like and get subscribed to the channel for plenty more sim racing action. We're waiting for the green lights to come on then, and we are underway, and we get a great leap off the start. We're actually closing in on Hughes up ahead, but that's no good to us. There's no room to get past, so I have to just bleed out of the throttle slightly, hug to the outside here. I can see cars making dives down my inside. Again, not going to challenge them. We're getting a message that there has been contact in T1 this time. There's a spinner up ahead of us. We're going to have to take it easy through the second part of the opening set of corners, and a big collision up ahead there again. So nothing like race 1 where everybody got through cleanly. This time there have been big shunts. It's cost us a load of time having to be just cautious on the gas through the S's there as we began the race, but we have managed to avoid picking up any damage ourselves, and we've picked up at least a handful of positions. We'll see the driver standings get updated at the end of lap 1, and the great news is we are still in contact with the pack of 4 cars up ahead of us, and we will all concertina together through this highly technical middle section of the lap. And it's really difficult to get these cars turned in through these corners. GT3 cars generally do not enjoy these kinds of corners. On cold tyres, on lap 1, they really don't enjoy them. So it's a real struggle to just thread the car through. It feels very different from driving a high downforce single-seater around this circuit, which is tended to be what I've driven here in the past on other sims. But nevertheless, we've got through lap 1 then. We're putting pressure on Alex Hughes up ahead, and there's all to play for in this race. So looking forward to getting stuck in to the rest of it. But before we do, let's take a little look back then at T1 on lap 1, and you can see collisions all the way through the field, drivers having to try and just gradually rejoin the track, but then more cars spinning off towards the right hand side there, and then the BWT liveried car just getting up on the curb, all of his own volition, then into the barrier, spears back across the circuit and catches another driver coming past at full speed. That will have been a very big shunt. Let's take a look from their vantage point in cockpit. They must have been thinking at this point, brilliant, I've survived the worst of the carnage in T1, I'm going to get my foot down, and that was a fatal mistake as they get collected in someone else's accident, and that will be a trip to pit lane. We rejoin then at the beginning of lap 3 as we're still in close proximity to Hughes up ahead, coming through the S's one more time then, and there's more contact up ahead. It looks like Andrew Ford out of contention as he's going to drop all the way to the back of the field. We'll come back to look at that when there's a break in the action, but for now I'm really focused on squeezing onto the rear wing of Alex Hughes just up ahead. We'll now be up into 14th position. I've got my eyes on a top 10 finish here. If we can just keep our pace to a reasonable level, then hopefully we'll see some battling up ahead, which will bring us into contention with some of those cars just a little bit further up the road. But a top 10 finish would represent a really good result for us here at Interlagos. You can see visibly closing up as we get into the slow section. Hughes looks a little bit loose coming through the right and left-hander there, so we were momentarily within half a second of him, and now we're just snaking around the right-hander, and again we take a tighter line. It looks like he's probably carried a little bit more speed than we have through that corner, and he's got a nice wide entry into the sweeping left-hander. Run it out wide here into Junção then. I am nervous every time I come into this apex. You saw the mistake that I made in race 1. It's a very tricky corner, and it is so crucial to your overall lap time at Interlagos, because you carry any mistakes that you make, even small ones, all the way down this back straight. You're just giving away time, and it's a very difficult entry and exit to the corner. But we managed it alright that time around. We're within half a second as we approach T1 once again on Hughes, the driver up ahead. We've got a very nice line through the S's. It feels to me like we are more comfortable through this opening part of the lap than Hughes up ahead. We're down now the gap to 0.2 seconds, so we might have a run on him here. Down into the left-hander at the end of this straight. We are closing in the draft, but we're not going to be quite close enough into the braking zone to chuck one down the inside, so we have to live to fight another day. We both run it slightly wide on exit over the curb. That picks up our first incident point of the race, but look at how close we are to Hughes here as we come up the hill and into the right-hander. He's having to dab the brakes through the middle of the corner, so we will again gain on him through the middle part of the corner. Unfortunately not close enough to make a move into the technical middle section here, and so we've just got to try and stay close to him, try and get onto his rear wing as we exit Junção and onto the main straight. But we've actually dropped back just a little bit here as we come through the final tight right-hander of this middle section and get ready to climb the hill once again to the start-finish line, where hopefully we may just be close enough to make a move into T1. Very wide on entry there, Hughes, into Junção, but then you have to push the car to the full width of the track if you're going to carry maximum speed through that corner. You can see we are pretty close to Hughes here, but we're still still probably just a couple of tenths too far back from making a move. But cast your eyes up the field, you can see cars jousting at the first corner here as we come towards it, and yes, big puff of smoke, one Ferrari into the barrier facing the wrong direction, so we may not have been close enough to use to make a position up, but we have nevertheless climbed up into 13th. But look at how easy it would be to lose control of the car. We just got one tyre up onto the grass on the inside there, and we nearly lost it ourselves. Let's take a look back then at how we've made up a couple of those positions. This is from a couple of laps earlier as we're just following through the first corner here, and it looks like a driver just gets it wrong himself. Yes, just where we nearly lost control before we cut to the replay. That's where Andrew Ford lost his car, and here is the big shunt for the driver there in the red Ferrari into the barrier. He didn't know much about that. He got a big tap from behind. He'll be frustrated in the cockpit, no doubt, because that is his race ruined. We rejoin the race then just about at half race distance, and it looks like we've got another driver off in the infield here. That's Nobre, so that is another position made up for us. We'll be up then, I think, potentially into 12th position. We'll wait until the standings get updated once again, and we are still harrying and putting pressure on Hughes up ahead. I've definitely got more pace at this stage of the race than he does. I just can't seem to find a way past. It's a very tricky circuit to overtake. These cars feel super wide on this Interlagos circuit, and we've overcooked it into Juncker. We managed to keep the car on the track this time, but look at how much time that's cost us. We're now outside of the draft of Hughes up ahead, and we're more than a second behind, and we're losing speed all the way down the straight, just as I said would happen if you make a mistake into that corner. So disappointing really. We've made up another spot. It looks like we are up into 12th position, but we've got it all to do again as I'm having to try and close the gap once more on Hughes. But it just now relies on him making a mistake, I think, because we are slightly quicker, but I'm not quick enough, I think, to be able to reel in this sort of distance without Alex making a mistake himself. We're coming then down into the left-hander, and it looks like there is an incident just up ahead of us. Is there? Yes, there's one Ferrari round. Hughes has to take avoiding action. We're able to carry more speed because we just had more notice of the crash taking place, and we were able to dash up the inside of Hughes as he rejoined. So we've got a huge slice of good fortune there, really at the point of the race where we were struggling the most to put pressure on Hughes, having made that mistake ourselves. Here's a replay of how that played out then, and you can see the red Ferrari behind just getting caught out by the driver up ahead braking around the apex. This is the view from Hughes then, and you can see how close he came to ploughing into the side of the Ferrari. Just managed to get out of the way, but that pushed him wide off the circuit, and it gave me a chance to then dive on through. Fortunately, I was just able to get past without needing to get on the brakes as heavily as Hughes had to in order to stay safe. We rejoin them with just less than a third of this race to go. I have not been able to break away from Hughes behind me. You can see him looming large in my rearview mirror here. In fact, he's closing all the way in, so I'm going to have to take a defensive line into T1. He's going to just get a nose around our outside momentarily, but there really is no way to make an overtake at that point of the track, and you can see actually he's lost out time to me through the S's by virtue of having to take a slightly wider line, but the gap still 0.2 seconds, so it doesn't look as if Hughes is going to go anywhere. While we had the pace advantage when we were following in his wake, it looks like he now has the pace advantage over me, and so big pressure then into the final 4 minutes of the race. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to catch up to Vicente Lecha up ahead. He's got 5 seconds worth of a gap to me heading into the final few laps of the race. Bento is the car in 12th position behind Hughes, and we are a couple of seconds up ahead of him. In fact, actually, he is just dropped out of contention. It's now Tissini who is behind him. That means we've gained an extra second on the driver in 13th position. So it is a straight shootout between myself and Hughes heading into the end of this race. Can I hold my nerve and keep this position from him? It would represent a great finish in the top 10, but no, I've spoken too soon. We're up wide on the curb at Juncker once again. Another crucial mistake into that part of the lap, and I've thrown it away. just as quickly as we managed to get on past due to him having to take avoiding action of an accident, I then gifted the position back to him by making another mistake at that corner. It is my nemesis, it seems, on this race combination. Here is a replay of it then. We're not that far wide, but once you even get one tyre up onto the grass, the car just gets sucked out onto the green stuff, and then you've got to be so careful in rejoining so that you don't get tipped into a full spin. And here is the view from Hughes's cockpit then. You can see he's having to apply a little bit of opposite luck, but he will not be able to believe his luck at being able to take that position back so easily. We rejoin then on the very last lap of the race, and we have continued to hound Hughes to try and get that position back and ourselves up into the top 10, but unfortunately time is running out, and it is just as much of a struggle as it was in the first part of the race to get alongside Hughes and get past him. And with just a couple of corners left now, it is really going to take Alex Hughes to make a mistake up ahead of us if we're going to have any chance of getting past, and he has not made a mistake. He is clean through the final meaningful corner of the lap. We are within 0.6 seconds, so we did reel that gap back in, but it's not going to be enough. We're going to have to settle for 11th place, and overall, in a race full of chaos where we could easily have been collected in some of those accidents, I am pretty happy with an 11th place finish. A field of drivers with higher iRating than I've got. I'm frustrated that I made that mistake and unfortunately missed out on a top 10 position, but really I think in fairness this is where our pace was. I really enjoyed the battle with Hughes. We didn't get too much side by side action, but you could tell all the way through the race we were very evenly matched on pace, and I always felt confident that we were going to be able to battle fairly. Here's confirmation of the results then. We got a little bump to our iRating, a little bump to our safety rating, and a solid 67 championship points. So pretty happy with that, and really enjoying driving this Ferrari in the Ferrari Fixed series this season. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, leave a like, get subscribed, and I will see you on the next one.